Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captives of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Vincent W. Allen, a business professional who aims to passionately and positively influence the world for good through the intersection of the arts, multimedia, and technology. Vincent, that is one heck of a goal. But it's interesting that you are doing it, even though people would say that is a very big goal. When did you first become interested in engineering?
Well, so it all started out when I was very young. My mother, she would kill me if I didn't say this, is a huge fan of yours and has been for decades.
I'm pretty good with the mothers.
Yeah, generally speaking, she every day is a View kind of day for her, if you know what I mean. But when I was very small, my father was in the United States Coast Guard, and my mother was a theater professional, and so she was involved in various capacities, whether it was directing or production managing or acting in whatever show was at the regional professional theater level everywhere we lived. And so I was around it from the time. My earliest memories are of the inside of dusty old theaters, right? And so as time went on, you just you get a little bigger, you understand a little more of things, and then you start doing the work yourself. And so I started working in the field when I was 10 or 11 years old.
Wow.
There was this place in Fairhope, Alabama, where my dad was stationed in Mobile at the time, called the Hangout. And Fairhope, if you've never been to the Gulf Coast, is one of those places where back in '92 they were spending $1 million on their flower beds on Main Street, right? And so they had money to burn, and they built a place called the Hangout, which was effectively a youth center, but they had a DJ and a whole production environment. And I really had the opportunity to just toy around and tinker. And that's sort of where the work started for me. And then when we transferred back up to Southeast Alaska, was where I went to high school. Myself and 3 or 4 of my buddies were able to write some grants. Well, we wrote them ourselves, 12-year-olds writing grants, right? And we were able to purchase and acquire some professional television gear, and did a lot of work with the ABC, NBC, various affiliates up there. And we built this TV station out over the course of a 4-year period of time that became a statewide news entity. And I actually covered all the municipal elections at that time, high school sports. People who follow NBA basketball would know who Carlos Boozer was. Carlos and I went to high school together. And I covered him and did all of his media coverage ahead of him going to Duke. And then, as you do, you build your career, one step at a time.
Yes, it's so interesting. I asked the question, but it seems like you were just born to do this and you've been doing it since you were in short pants.
I mean, essentially, yes, very, 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 very much so. Most people nowadays wouldn't remember when Premier Gorbachev came to the United States in the late '80s. We lived on Governor's Island at the time, and I was there for that. There are photos of me and my little brother involved in all the parades and festivities. Jerry Seinfeld did a set. This was, of course, before the show, right? So you are not wrong about that, Star. Like, I definitely was doing this from the time I was in short pants, as you say.
I love it. But so it's one thing to be creative as a young person, but then to mix it with that entrepreneurial spirit really is what took your career to the next level. So tell me why you actually decided to start VAAV Industries.
The reason I decided to start it was during the last few years, especially during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of consulting as a solopreneur and et cetera. But, our business, is very much built on 1099s. It's independent contractors, it's things of this nature. And I could do that for the rest of my life and make plenty of money. But it's much harder to be a entity with any sort of force behind it if you're just by yourself, right? And so that was part of the reason, was to want to be able to have a little bit more leverage and a little bit more force. And the ultimate reason was I have an 8-year-old daughter, Naomi, who is here with me today, and she works with me on a lot of the shoots that we do. She helps me set up lights and operate camera. She's been on the switcher a number of times for the live streams that we do every week, and was to, as you probably are aware, the media business, but most businesses are not the easiest place for women to flex their muscle as experts, right? And y'all get treated a way that isn't appropriate or fair or right or just. And during the pandemic, there's a good friend of mine, a woman named Bethany. I tell this story all the time, but she's one of the most brilliant video conference engineers I've ever met in my life. And she tells this story about how her dad was an architect, and she knows how to do everything you can do in the construction space. But oftentimes she'd go on a construction site as a AV engineer, and you would have some construction guy, some Staten Island guy going, "Hey, sweetheart, can you get me a cup of coffee?" Then she's the senior engineer on the project, right? And she would say it like this: give me the respect I've earned. Or as LeBron said a couple of years ago when they won the championship of the bubble, "Give me my damn respect." And so that was really the combination of my good friend Bethany and my little girl. That was really the impetus to move this from just a solopreneur consulting kind of thing into more of a full-fledged company that has outreach initiatives and philanthropic programs that we're undertaking. And when people watch our live stream, you'll see a significant amount of the stuff that I actually talk about in the live stream is, to borrow parlance from the NBA from a few years ago, how we can lean in and understand that there are just as many women as men who have expertise in various different technical things. And it's been past time to stop having to be twice as good or 3 times as good than a man to do the work. Right? And so that was really the main reason to start the company.
You clearly are preaching to the choir, having had 30 years of work in the media industry. So bravo. But I mean, I want to be very specific. What kinds of services does the company provide? Because that's the bottom line. Are you really providing the services that people need in this industry?
Sure. So there's 3 basic pillars that we work in the midst of that supports our company and the larger sort of social good initiatives. So the first pillar is that corporate AV consulting, construction consulting. So whether that's residential or corporate, if you were going to put in a home theater in your house, or you wanted to put in a conference room somewhere, or things of that nature, or build a studio, really working with the vendors and working with the various construction companies, electrical engineers, construction engineers, et cetera, to do the drawings, review the CAD drawings, and build that all out from ideation to completion, right? And so if you come to me, Star, and say, "Hey, I want to build a series of conference rooms in my office, or I want to build a home office," then we're going to, hammer out a deal and do that, and take you from the initial ideation phase to when you're done and you cut the ribbon, right? So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is production services, right? Where we're doing what we're doing today, where someone wants to do an interview with yourself or whomever, and they don't have the first idea about how to do any of this, how to light it, how to do the sound, how to set up a green screen, what cameras to use, like any of that sort of stuff. And we come in and it's a done for you type of service. My team and I will come in, we'll do photography, we'll do the video, we'll do the audio, we'll mix it down, we'll make sure it sounds good, so that when they connect with you or someone else across a Zoom or what have you, right, that there's 1,000,006 different ways to do this out there, that it looks good and it sounds good and everyone feels good about the quality of product. And then the third piece is really kind of a mix of the two, where you have a large company or even a medium-sized company that wants to build a studio and build an NPR or build a setup where they're able to do, town hall and all this sort of stuff, leveraging all of the high-end stuff, right, in their conference room, but also being able to have that integrate with a Zoom or a Microsoft Team or a WebEx, because I know I don't have to tell you, Star, that a lot of these corporate executives now, they all want to be Steve Jobs. They all want to get up there and talk about how this new thing that they're doing is going to change the world, right? And more often than not, it's not life changing, but in their business model and in their psyche, they think it is. And so we provide that level of consulting services, of which I'm one of the handful of experts in the world that know how to do this and do this well.
So it's a variety of services, but it seems like a full service AV and I guess media production organization. So basically, it's a one-stop shop for what you need.
That's absolutely right, Star. It's a one-stop shop for all of your production, webcasting, video conference, construction and production needs. It's really a done-for-you service. So if you're trying to get your live stream onto your website and you don't have the first clue about how to do that, we'll do that for you. Awesome. Right. It's all of that stuff along the way. It's consulting, it's teaching, and all of that really is in support of the larger social good initiatives.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of social good, I know that you worked on several campaigns and with several entities that are major consumer organizations, and specifically Weight Watchers. Tell me about your work in that area.
So I signed on in Weight Watchers just a few months before the pandemic. So I went frying pan, meet fire, right? And so basically I signed on to be their senior AV engineer in charge of all of their AV, video conference, Zoom, and the like globally. Before the pandemic hit, I was actually overseeing the build out of their new conference rooms in Toronto. And that shut down when the whole world shut down, right? And then on a dime, Mindy Grossman, who's the CEO of WW, came to me and basically said, we need to figure out how we stay in business, right? Because people can't come into the studios, like they can't come get their food, like they can't get their classes. We're going to go out of business. And so we were able to devise a mechanism to allow them to do virtual studio sessions where we distributed green screens to all of the coaches globally. And you're talking about all over the world, here the United States, Europe, APAC, all over the world. And we were teaching them how to do this on Zoom. And we were able to then build in the Zoom functionality into the Weight Watchers app, both for Android and iOS, and then also land it in a web platform for people who are interacting from a laptop or like whatever, where they were still able to go to their classes, and everything took place in the app. And that quickly iterated into doing a live interview show with celebrity chefs and personal trainers. Like, how do you stay fit when you can't get out of your living room, et cetera. And that continued to develop and iterate during the pandemic. So until Oprah came in, because everyone knows Oprah is a good friend of WW, right? And has been forever. And she saw what we were doing, and the tech that we built for Weight Watchers actually became the tech that underpinned Oprah's Saturday Conversations. Fantastic. Right? And that ultimately led to my team and myself at Weight Watchers being nominated for Webbies in 3 different categories, but then also recognized in 2 special technical achievement categories. Now, we didn't end up winning those categories because we were competing with Google and Discovery Media, but we were runner-up in I think in almost all of those categories. For a company the size of WW, especially a team the size we had, was a huge accomplishment.
Awesome. Really, really awesome. I know Mindy very, very well. We serve as special advisors to the American Heart Association together.
Right.
And I know the kind of CEO she is, always innovative. And so it makes complete sense that she
she likes to say never waste a crisis, right?
And so she will always figure out how the next thing will be on the front burner of everybody's conversation.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the sort of the innovation that you all have done, I understand you served as the technical director for Greece's bicentennial production. I'm going to Greece this summer. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so during the pandemic, that's when their bicentennial was, and so they were trying to figure out how to do this in a way that was dynamic and also a little unique, but honored their country, a major milestone for their country, right? It's 200 years from when they got their independence, right? And so what we did was everything was shot at a Greek Orthodox church on the Upper East Side. George Stephanopoulos from ABC was the MC of the event, and we actually shot that. So all of his stuff was pre-shot, and he came to the facility, to the church, and we lit lights, sound, all that kind of stuff. The day or 2 days before, edited overnight. We had everything, all of that packaged up. We had video from President Biden, Senator Schumer, pretty much every person you've ever heard of that even their name even sounds a little Greek, sent video along. And then the Prime Minister of Greece, the opposition party leader, and a number of other people all sent in video packages. And then we also had live stuff. There was some opera singers. There was a Byzantine choir. The Greek Orthodox Pope flew in and was part of the presentation. And so
that is completely multimedia, every single aspect of putting together.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. So we were setting up cameras. We had close to 30 cameras. I mean, more lights than anyone can count. And it was, we had two productions. Earlier in the day, there was the consecration of the Greek Orthodox Church ceremony, which was about 4 hours long. And we broadcast that out over the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese social media accounts and YouTube, etc. And then later in the day was the official celebration for the bicentennial or whatever. And that got streamed out via private RTMP link to some servers over in Greece. And that actually became the official broadcast of Greek state TV. So European countries is a lot like the BBC or whatever, where they have their main state TV, and then they have a separate group that broadcast stuff out for Greek people that are in the diaspora that are spread out around the Eastern Mediterranean. And our broadcast became the official state broadcast for both of those broadcast groups.
Fantastic. I mean, talk about being able to provide the services that are needed at the time they are needed. And I'm sure you all didn't even know how much more you could stretch. So it was an awesome opportunity, a horrible time, but an awesome opportunity to see just what innovations you could put in place.
Yeah, absolutely, Star. If you talk to people if you talk to people in the business, I mean, COVID was a terrible time for health and safety reasons, and lots of people lost their lives, and that was tragic. But it accelerated everything we were doing from a technology standpoint by 5 years minimum.
I think so also. I mean, even someone who is not considered to be in the tech industry, I learned how to really conform my business. Even what we're doing today, virtual interviews, that's one of the things that became my expertise, because we realized that still that human touch, that communication, that imparting of information is what people still craved. And we have to figure out a way to be able to do that. And you told me a couple of minutes ago that you had been nominated for the Webbies as it related to the WW work. But tell me if the company has been recognized with any awards or other distinctions. I know that the Webbies are considered to be, the Oscars of the tech industry, media industry. But what else are we talking about?
Well, right. I mean, obviously, it's an honor just to be nominated, right? But I've actually got a couple of things happen.
As of this year, 10-time Emmy nominated host here. So it is a truly.
I mean, you should have won already. So you should have won by now, Scott.
I feel like the Susan Lucci.
Susan Lucci, right? I was going there. Right. No, I mean, so I hear you. I think we could agree on that. I will actually be in Las Vegas at the Internet 2.0 conference the week of July 10th, where they're honoring me with the Internet 2.0 Leadership and Tech Award. And I'll be speaking on two different panels there. One of the panels I'll be speaking on is solving the diversity crisis in Silicon Valley. So I'll be speaking on that panel. And then I'll also be speaking on a panel about, building out cities using, using Internet of Things technology and some of this Internet 2 and Internet 3 tech. So that's happening. I also, as you know, I was honored with being inducted to the Marquee Who's Who at the tail end of last year. So I'll be in their book for 23 when it comes out. Or I'm already up on the website. I will actually be on the cover of Millennium, which is Marquee's magazine, when it comes out later this year. And they're They're doing a spread on me in there as well.
Awesome.
And I'm let's see what else. I was featured in the Wall Street Journal as one of Marquis featured distinguished leaders, one of 9 people there on that list, and that came out last month. And I'm waiting to hear back in terms of moving forward. But I was nominated for I was nominated for a 40 under 40 list, the Business Elite Awards, which is an internet-based list, but that should be
very
happening
well
later this
known.
year.
Very well
Yes.
known. I mean, so it seems like you are just moving and shaking in this industry, but I'd love to know what are the goals for the future, either personally or professionally, other than the fact that Naomi is going to put you out of a job when she takes over the company.
Oh yeah, I mean she's on the I'm on the way out. She's about to take over, but I mean obviously my goal always is to just be the best father to her that I can be, and to raise her the best I can. I mean, one of my favorite quote stars is Frederick Douglass, is it's easier to raise whole adults than fix broken children, right?
100%.
And so that's always top of the list for me. I'm continuing to build out the company, looking for new and creative ways to help serve our overall umbrella initiatives in terms of leaning into women in the tech marketplace and things of that nature, and continuing to do that, continuing to call that stuff out. We're continuing to build our live stream. There's an app we're working on at the moment to help do more integrative things in the AV and tech space as it relates to Zoom and Microsoft Teams and the like. And to be able to do that. So if you're a business person and you've got one team on Microsoft and one team on Zoom and another team on Google, you're not having to fight 6 different applications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, to be able to, you can be all in one ecosystem, and there's some other functionality coming there. That's on the horizon as well. But just continuing to build out the brand, continuing to become a place that people come looking for to fulfill their AV and their production and all that kind of consulting needs, so that we can continue to serve the overall change for good initiatives.
It just sounds like you are goal set on continuing to innovate in an industry that is based solely on innovation. And
Yeah.
it works, because every day I'm hearing new things that are coming on in technology and media. And it seems like you guys have your finger right on the pulse of what's happening. Before we end, would you like to share one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that I mean, my experience in the production and tech industry, which is going on 30 years at this point, if it's taught me anything, it's that we have to be able to work more collaboratively. When you think about being on a TV set or a theater set, everyone is doing their own thing, but it's all in support of a larger goal. And I think that that's ultimately, like, we need to get back to that in this country. Like, we seem to all be working against each other in one way or another. And so we need to be able to appropriate that kind of mentality to everything we do. And to that end, just because someone doesn't look like they can do the job doesn't mean they cannot. And we've had all kinds of people go to space. We've had all kinds of people who are amazing engineers and who are great doctors and whatever. And it's everyone's mother taught them this growing up: don't judge a book by its cover, right? And it seems like, especially in technology, there is this assumption that only a certain type of person can do the thing. And I think that that's largely because of, like, if you go shopping for your kids, I mean, all of the stuff that looks cool and makes cool sounds and is technically, inclined, it's all red and black and like boy colors. It's got lightning bolts on the side of it. All the stuff that's for girls is like, is all traditional stuff. It's kitchen sets. It's these kinds of things. And I know around Christmas time, as a girl dad, I get frustrated with it. And so I think we need to, if we take one thing away, it's lean into girls and young women being able to play with and do the things that they want to do, not just things that are intrinsically or traditionally assumed to be feminine.
Right. And society does not define a female. The female is going to define herself. And that's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
very important to raise young women to know that, and to raise young men to respect it. So you and I
Absolutely.
are on the same page. And you gave me your favorite quote from Frederick Douglass. I'll give you one of mine as it relates to technology. Technology is best when it brings people together. And it's very clear that that's the kind of work that you've been doing for years and the kind of work that you'll continue to do. Vincent, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Star. It was a pleasure.